Go ahead and open up a document in your work folder called Eyedropper and Text.ai. What we want to look at here is the eyedropper in Adobe Illustrator and how it's very different than, say, the eyedropper in a program like Adobe Photoshop. Now, in Photoshop, when you come over here, and there it is, when you pick up the eyedropper tool and you come over here and you select something, basically we see it changing this color over here, the fill color. And we can come over in Photoshop and do this all day long, and then we can use that color someplace else. We can also get into images, do the same thing. But in Illustrator, because we're dealing with objects most of the time, not photographs, it does a lot more than that. For example, let's do this. Let's select the text up here. And I'm using what I call my temporary selection tool by holding the Control key down and clicking it, selects it, let go of the Control key, I'm back to the eyedropper. Most people in Illustrator understand that if I come over here and click, basically since I have that selected, it's going to change the color. And I can't tell you how many times I've done that accidentally, where I have something selected and forgot that and then made a choice with my eyedropper and it made the change up there. So if it's selected, it's going to change. And we can do this all day long. We know that. But these options up here actually have a stroke. See them? Now watch what happens when I click one of these. Well, it applies the stroke. So what's that telling me? Well, number one, it's not only taking a color, it's taking an attribute. And whether it's a 1-stroke or a 2-stroke or a 10-stroke, it's going to take everything that's on that particular object and apply it, if I want to do it this way, to the object I have selected. In our case, it's text, even down to the fact of a pattern, whatever you want to do. Now, these are semi-transparent. I change the opacity, and you'll notice it even does that. So if you have an object selected, that's an easy way to do it. But a lot of people say, well, if I don't have an object selected, is there a way to maybe make the change? And there is. Let me temporarily deselect everything again. If I come over here and click, it's changing over here. But notice if I select this one, it turns off the stroke. So it remembers that. If I select here and I want to apply with the eyedropper anything that I have kind of pulled into the eyedropper to an object that's not selected, hold down the Alt key. And you see your cursor going from a right-leaning to a left-leaning, and you can see that it's kind of full, like an eyedropper. And if I click on something like, say, we'll just go over here, you can see it'll change it. So if you don't have something selected, maybe you forgot, or maybe you decide you just want to apply using the eyedropper features of something that you last clicked on, you hold the Alt key down and then actually click on it, and it will be more than glad to do that for you. I'm going to press undo to get rid of that. Now we can also come down here to something like the bird and do the same thing. Let's go ahead, go back up here again and select Magical Eyedropper. And if I come over here, you can see it'll change it. By default, a photograph doesn't have stroke. So even if you start with a stroke on something and come down to a photograph, it's going to remove the stroke. Photos don't have strokes, but we can at least get the color. Now, how does it know to do all this? I've mentioned this before, and I'll mention it again. A lot of the features over here in the toolbar, if you double click on them, have additional options. And if I double click on the eyedropper tool, this is why it's moving the information. Transparencies, fills, overprints, weights and caps, joins on the pads. I pick them up. What do I want to apply over here? Now you also have a point sample. When you're dealing with solid colors, you don't have to worry about that. But if you're working with a photograph, I might suggest that you come over here and do like a 3x3 average. And I click OK and come over here again. And what I'm doing is it's averaging the colors. So I'm not getting one little tiny dot of color in a raster photograph. It's giving me more of an average, which is, since that's what the eye sees, probably not a bad thing to do. The default is a point. Now I'm going to turn off the void. Now in this layer, I've got two groups of text, two separate areas. If I come over and pick up my type tool and get into this first area, you'll see it's Adobe Garamond Pro, regular 11 point. But I've done a few other things. I've justified the text, and I've added a little bit of space between them. Now over here in this area, the text is Georgia. Now, not the state of Georgia in the United States, obviously the font called Georgia. It's regular at 10 point, left justified, not much else going on with it. I would like to apply what's going on here to the text over here. Now, it is the same text, But we're not talking about, well, copy paste it over there, which would work. I want to change the attributes of this text to what this is. So what do? Well, we pick up the eyedropper tool. Actually, let's double click on it. Notice we have, I love this, character and paragraph styles. Now, yes, we could, as we did in a previous lesson in this chapter, make character and paragraph styles. But this is just a one-off. So notice that when I get into text, let me bring it up here so you can see it. See the eyedropper has a little tiny T next to it? That means you're going to bring in text attributes. So click. Now it does the color too, but we did click, we've got everything. Come over here. Now if I just click, nothing's going to happen. It's going to try to pick up that information again. So let's come over here and click to get it back. Come over here, hold the Alt key down. See your cursor switch, and now click. Everything that was on this text is now over here with one single click of my mouse. The eyedropper tool is not just for fills. It's not just for fills and strokes or patterns or gradients. It's even going to allow you to move in a one-off information in terms of character and paragraph styles from one group of text to another. I love that about the eyedropper. On to the next.